Good evening here. You join me live on the Adrian Show here on WilliamsTV. I'm Adrian and I will be your host tonight on the Adrian Show as we talk about a range of issues facing the country. So the first big thing we are looking at the moment tonight on the show will be calls for using voice chat in Parliament. Now this has been highly talked about area lately with multiple individuals calling for Parliament to use voice chat. But firstly, let's understand why. Well, for those of you unaware, Roblox has recently released an update or a sort of safeguarding update in quotation marks there, which is basically going to screw over everybody's ability to talk to each other on Roblox. So that's going to divide it into certain age categories. And you won't be able to talk to people outside of those age categories. It's kind of to stop like the Roblox Jeffrey Epsteins, but in practicality, groups like the UK are going to be affected by that. And obviously, you have individuals from the ages of 13 up to 20 something within the community. So this is a big area, and this is a big area particularly in Parliament, where all the in-game sessions are taken using the in-game Roblox chat, which, I mean, it's a highly outdated method, and I will talk about that point a little bit later, but this is the sort of key issue that everyone's facing. So that brings up the question of what are the solutions? Well, there's several, and the main one that seems to have been picked by Parliament at the moment is that they're going to introduce this sort of like this box, and it's like a microphone, like a tool, and then it'll be given to whoever's speaking, and they will then speak, and a little like box on the screen will then appear with the individual's text. When that's going to be utilised tonight for the King's Speech, which is taking place at half 7 tonight. And that will be used going forwards. I mean, the House of Lords will be continuing as standard, as obviously usually both sessions wouldn't occur at the same time, but because it's the King's Speech, there'll be an overlap if they're both trying to use the same thing at once. But that is the current decision taken by Parliament. But what's the alternative? Well, I think the alternative is a far better solution. And whilst it hasn't been completely ruled out for the time being, it is definitely something that needs looking into. This is, of course, none other than Voice Chat Parliament, which would be utilising Discord voice chats to then communicate in the voice chat as you would. Like, you talk to people, much like how the real House of Commons operate, in the sense that people speak rather than typing it all like little keyboard warriors. And it just makes so much more sense, in my opinion. I mean, look, it's not 2018 anymore. We've grown out of using in-game chat for Parliament sittings. I don't know who is going to be sat there wanting to type 2 gajillion words about like some policy when they can just read it, and it would save so much time if it happened. Like, if I'd typed everything I'm saying on the show by now, we'd probably be like 5 minutes behind where I'm. Has it even been going for 5 minutes? Yeah, it has been going for about 5 minutes, so I'll probably be about 5 minutes behind where I am now. It's genuinely such a stupid idea that we are still using Roblox in-game chat in the big 2025 for Parliament. So, look, I don't see any reason why a voice chat Parliament can be introduced. I have seen arguments against it, and I will go through these arguments later on to sort of add my way of getting around those issues that could occur, if that makes sense. But like I said, it just makes so much more sense. I'll give you a case study or a little example of where this has worked. So for those of you unfamiliar with myself, I have a lot of experience within the British Armed Forces in the community. I was a warrant officer class 1 in the Household Cavalry as the RSM, or RCM as they called it back then, because it's the cavalry, slightly different ranks. Let's not get distracted anyway. And a couple of Sergeant and Grenadier Guards. Now, this is important because obviously as a NCO within the cavalry, particularly on this occasion, we used to do our recruitments. This is how you get people to join your regiment. They come to a recruitment and you give all the information out. Now, most events that you would host would always use voice chat. It would communicate. The instructor would speak to the attendees using voice chat because it's just infinitely quicker and they can respond to things as they happen. But for some reason, the recruitments were still held using in-game chat, and it would take so ridiculously long. So about 1 year into my little career there, maybe a little bit before then, it was decided that it was stupid and outdated and that we should just have like a stage channel or just like a voice chat channel, and the instructor would talk to the recruits, and there the recruits could spawn back in a chat still, but the instructor would still very much be speaking. And we managed to shave a whopping 10 to 12 minutes off of these recruitments, maybe even more. I mean, sometimes these things could go on for up to an hour, and we were able to cut them down to like half an hour, and that was very much being the standard. When I left the community, came back to Grenadier Guards, again it was still voice chat being used for those recruitments, and it just made life so much easier. And I don't know why this hasn't been implemented into Parliament. It is 2025, it is not 2017. We need voice chat Parliament instantly. Now, there are counter arguments to this, and I will go through some of those now. I'll start off with the ones that Sangoose, who's like or Louis Wellesley, he's like one of the sort of admins of the Parliament, and obviously a member of the royal family as well. So I'll just go through some of the things he's put in his message, because he did say the idea of voice chat Parliament and some of his concerns regarding it, and how it's not ruled out completely, but would have to be looked into. Well, these are my sort of responses to that. So he said it's a massive departure from the way we currently operate. I mean, this is true, but I don't see why that's an issue. I think it would be far more effective. How MPs are used to, I mean, again, I think most people are used to speaking to each other unless you're an absolute no-lifer, so we can rule that out. I mean, you can read off of your speech if you like writing things out in advance, I guess. This is how MPs do it in real life. They give their speeches via their mouths. And he doesn't want to make any rush decisions. That bit's fair enough. I mean, you know, state opening is tonight, so you're going to have to look into it. So there are concerns he's raised. So it'd have to be done as a stage to avoid people talking over each other or interrupting. I get this point, but I disagree with it. I think you could have a regular voice chat channel, and I know his concern here is there's people talking over each other. But if you gave the speaker, so Dean, the ability to mute people being disruptive, that would just solve the problem of people speaking over each other. You could just, if someone's being disruptive, you can just mute them. And again, it's very much how the real, House of Commons operate. They will speak if like they start hearing, jeering or whatever, and it goes all to chaotic. The speaker will then try and regain control of it. It's literally how it's done in real life. I don't see why that's an issue there. So anyway, next point then. Where are we? So thing about doing it done as a stage, and then he then says that's limiting people who are willing to participate. I'm assuming what he's referring to here is people that do not want to use voice chat. I mean, yeah, you do get the people all unable to. You get some people without mic for whatever reason, or just people that just don't like speaking. I mean, I do see that, which is why I think you should have an alternative method for people that do not or are unable to use voice chat, which is like what they're implementing for the King's Speech later today, which should hopefully work. And I don't see why they couldn't use that for people who can't speak, but still use voice chat for everyone else. It would still speed things up, and frankly, for someone like me, I genuinely cannot be bothered to type all of that stuff in there. I mean, I will, because for those unaware, I've just been elected as an MP for Suffolk, but I would much prefer as an MP to just speak my speeches. I am very much a spoken person, which is why I run a TV show. But I like speaking. I don't really like typing lots of stuff. So I'm sure there's many other people like myself that would sort of prefer it that way. And again, if people want to type it, then it just opens up the door for them to do that as well. You've got both options there. I don't see why that's an issue. But yeah, and then he says it doesn't allow for interjections during hearing or other background noise relevant to the spirit of Parliament. I mean, I get that if you did it as a stage, but like I said, I've already made my argument as to why it should just be a regular voice chat channel. So, I think that would not be an issue as much. I mean, it could potentially get quite loud and rowdy if you attempted to have everyone speaking at the same time. But again, as I said earlier, that's an issue that the speaker could deal with. I don't see an issue there. It would detach the community from the roleplay aspect of the game itself become a secondary requirement to Parliament. I mean, not really, because all the other aspects of Parliament, like voting, like sitting there, um, you know, everything else you would do in Parliament, even for the people that don't use voice chat, it would all still very much remain relevant. I mean, this is how the British Armed Forces work, for their events. It's all done within voice chat. Everyone sits in there, and not everyone speaks. It's usually the people hosting it speaking, or just random people speaking if you're getting delegated to go and do tasks or whatever. But it's all still very much in game. I mean, game part is a big part of it. It's just communicated via voice chat because it's so much more straightforward and easier. So again, that's my response to those issues Louis Wellesley has put there. But yeah, this is generally quite a big issue or idea that seems to have come about. I mean, I think it should have been done a long time ago, but even before we had the issues for chat, I don't know why we're still using in-game chat for Parliament and the Big 25, as I've mentioned before, but this is just the perfect opportunity to implement it. But anyway, there's a public opinion poll about this earlier that Zach, who is the leader of the Solidarity Party, put out, and it got 72% in favour of voice chat in Parliament in the General News Channel. So that was 54 votes in favour of using a voice chat channel, 16 votes, so 21% against, and then 5 votes, which is 7%, that were not sure about it. So evidently, an overwhelming majority of people agree with it, and I've spoken to various people from across the political sphere. I mean, everyone within the Four-Star Party, which is my party, is very much in favour of it. So that's people like Davis, myself, Ozex, etc. And then Solidarity Party, I mean, Scripted Zach's very much in favour of it, as are some of his sort of senior leadership that I've spoken to. I'm aware the Social Democrats are in favour of it as well, and I believe the National Party earlier said they were as well, with the Right On stating that in their channel. So the other parties haven't commented on it, but I think an overwhelming majority of people are in favour of it. I mean, it just makes complete sense, does it not? So hopefully it does get implemented. As I said, it hasn't been an outright no, but it will not be used for the King's speech tonight. It will go using the new system, which I talked about a little bit earlier. So hopefully it does get implemented. I would really like to see a voice chat Parliament. I think it would make things far more engaging, far more realistic, and would just be so much more efficient as a method of operating things. So I mean that's my take on that issue specifically. So far, as I said, overwhelming amount of support for that. But yeah, moving on to the next thing then. So the King's speech. Well, that's due to take place today, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. I've already sort of had some insider insights to that, shall we say. I cannot remember the exact details off the top of my head, but it will be very much common knowledge later on tonight at the King's speech when it is read out. But it's very interesting because obviously Parliament is very much hung at the moment. I mean, the government holds a minority of seats with a formal confidence and supply agreement with the Solidarity Party, which is how it's able to form government. And it's already a coalition as well between the Social Democrats and the ever deteriorating in size Unionist Party. So the other parties, of course, there is the Four-Star Party with 4 seats, Nationals with 8 seats, and then the Greg's Party, and I can't remember off the top of my head how many they got. Let's have a look actually, so I can bring that up. Yeah, Greg's Party was, of course, 13 seats, and then Social Democrats have 15. So it's going to be this very hung Parliament at the moment, which means that the government will have to seek out allies elsewhere for its bills to pass, including the King's Speech later on tonight, which theoretically should pass. I think a lot of and I know the Solidarity Party and the Four Star Party are wanting to pass it for the sake of um, you know stability within the nation, because we don't want another election. But so it should in theory pass, unless what comes out it's just an absolute shit show, pretty much, as a speech. So it does look like it will pass. I mean, obviously depends on attendance as well, but that is currently the idea there, unless it just gets changed last minute. But what this means is the government is at the mercy of the opposition parties. It needs the support of the Solidarity Party in particular, which has got the confidence in supply agreement, and of the other three opposition parties, Four Star, Nationals and Greg's, in order to pass its bills going into this term. It'll be interesting to see what compromises they have to make to meet the other parties' demands. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how it all goes tonight. Obviously, taking place at 7:30 tonight with the new chat system as well, which I talked about a little bit earlier on. We'll see how that goes on. But I think it'll be interesting to see how the Social Democrats government performs under such pressure already from the other parties, and I don't think it has the strongest leadership in the world either, so I think it might crumble at some point, but we'll see. We'll see. Although the other parties, particularly the Solidarity Party and the Four Star Party and the Nationals, are in a very strong position here, as they've obviously got a lot of control over the government, so it will need to meet their needs. The Greg's Party does to an extent, but not so much, because of its track record in government, its sort of unpopularity that it has acquired from some of the scandals last term. I don't think it's in quite as much of a stronger position. I think it will find that some of the other part, but it does hold the majority of opposition seats, so it does still have quite a lot of influence in that area. But I think in terms of a term going into the next election, I think we're likely to see I think the Social Democrats and Unionist government will not go particularly well with its situation in Parliament and leadership ultimately. I think it will crumble, and I don't think it will do too well at the next election. But I think the Solidarity Party, Four Star Party, and the National Party in particular will definitely have the opportunity to make some gains going forwards. But it's how they do that that is the real question, and whether they make the most of this opportunity to do so. I mean, like I said, it's very much a very volatile situation at the moment within Parliament, and it would be very interesting. I think we've got a very, very interesting term lined up here, and I'm excited to see how things go. Definitely, I think we're likely to see a lot of drama, shall we say, within Parliament going forwards, and I think it will prove a very, very interesting term, ladies and gentlemen. So watch this space as we watch what unfolds within Parliament indeed. But speaking of chaos, we haven't even reached the state open of Parliament, and there's already chaos going on. I can reveal from insider knowledge that the Solidarity leadership, there has been some disagreements, shall we say, within certain individuals. I will not give the full details of this, but as I'm sure it depends. We'll see how things go. But I'm aware of disagreements within the party already, and there has been an individual who is somewhat. If anyone's been watching the election news channel, you may have noticed that Polly Scrim was disqualified illegally from the Solidarity Board election. And I can confirm that this incident is related to the overall problem here. But he's been forced through into the election by the Electoral Commission, so he will be a candidate for the party board elections, thanks to the powers of the Electoral Commission. But it hints at a falling out there between Polly Scrum and the rest of the leadership, because parties don't usually disqualify their people based on rules that do not exist. So it's likely an attack there, and I can confirm there has been some ongoings there at the top, which I'm sure will come to the light going forwards. But watch this space definitely. But I thought I'd just leak that out to you all. There's a drama unfolding at the top there, which puts it does weaken their stance a little bit, because if they hadn't had that, they could have been in a very strong position going forwards. But it has weakened their position a little bit going into the parliamentary term, because I mean, if you come into the next election, you got, well, hang on a minute, this party's already had leadership spats before the term even properly started. It doesn't look too good. So I think they've kicked themselves in the teeth there with that one. There's also been a little bit of controversy as to how it all works. I've heard from people that leadership sort of meetings happen by Zach assembling his army of rather young leadership people for his party and then just shouts at them. Apparently that's what happens. So that's an interesting one, and there you go, that's now all on live TV for everyone to hear. But yeah, very interesting time coming up, very interesting King's Speech coming up. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think the government will have made several compromises to meet the demands of other parties. In fact, I can confirm it has made compromises to meet the demands of other parties, but it's a necessary step in order to ensure the dethroning of the Greg's party, which is why several parties came together to ensure that and meet their objectives there. So anyway, that is very much where we are at the moment of things. Watch this King's Speech, as there will be some interesting developments. I will not reveal what those are, however I'm fully aware of them, and we will see. It hopefully gets reported by the media. If not, I'll talk about it on the show at some point. But there are developments planned to happen during the King's Speech that not many people know about, so it will be interesting. Watch this space, definitely. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Voice chat parliament, King's Speech, solidarity, leadership is crumbling. And that's all the points I want to talk about tonight on the show. So with that, thank you all very much for watching. Please do stay tuned to WilliamsTV and of course the Adrian Show for future airings. There is an individual who I'd like to have on at some point for an interview coming up soon, who's related to some things I've talked about on the show tonight. So we'll have a see, but I'm not going to reveal who that is just yet. But yes, anyway, that's been it for tonight. Thank you all for watching, and I shall see you on the next airing of the show following the King's Speech and my introduction to Parliament as the 4 stars Member of Parliament for Suffolk. So with that, thank you all very much. Thank you for watching, and have a lovely rest of your evening.